Rodrigo, if you could walk us through some of your initial thoughts on Argentina.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mariana, for the great introduction. Our first takeaway is that there was a significant political risk at the outset of the new government due to Milei's confrontational stance and also limited legislative support. But I would say, like, since the beginning of the second quarter, the levels of governability have been improving. Improving consensus have been reached with centrist deputies and senators from Partido Radical, from province Peronist blocs, provincial Peronist blocs, and this had led to the approval of the first package of legislative reforms. This is definitely a positive development. We still see some elevated social risk because of the economic crisis that can produce protests and other disruptions, but there is definitely an improvement, as well as the second key takeaway that is about inflation. The deceleration of monthly inflation is one of the government's main achievements. Monthly inflation prints are well below the levels recorded after the December devaluation, and it seems that the central bank is successfully anchoring inflation expectations. However, I think it's important to note that like an economy that has experienced very high inflation, this is a really long process. On average, it takes like about 3 years to reach normal levels of annual inflation rates. That's annual inflation rates at 1-digit level. So companies should still remain conservative regarding growth targets, pricing. And about the effects, our takeaway is the uncertainty about the unification and the removal of exchange and capital controls are still really high, and this will imply a higher volatility in the coming months. But we maintain our view that the government will unify the FX market by the end of the year with the support of the IMF. And finally, the last message is related to economic activity. It seems that the worst is over, but our outlook is a slow but a steady recovery, not a rapid rebound, as the government mentioned early in the year. Key sectors as construction, manufacturing, retail are still showing weak performance. So I think in 2025, with the materialization of further reforms, we could see a more dynamic economy and a more clear positive outlook.
That's super interesting. Thank you for that overview. So to start off our conversation, let me ask you a quick question. So I know that Milei campaigned on a very ambitious agenda, and that's essentially what catapulted him to the presidency. So how successful has the current government been in securing approval for its reform agenda?
I believe that the government has been relatively successful implementing its first package of reforms. As you said, I think it's true that this package is less ambitious that was promised during the campaign, at least about the non-fiscal reforms. For example, capital controls are still in place. There are no steps towards dollarization. But it's important to acknowledge that implementing the original Milei program under the initial macroeconomic conditions, the levels of vulnerability, the levels of the central bank reserves could have or would have likely caused a greater economic crisis. So I think that we can say that the government has taken steps in the right directions. For instance, the government started their program with the normalization or somewhat normalization of the of international trade, of managing debt with importers. They launched successfully these BOPREAL bonds, helping importers deal with trade credit. Sorry, and in recent weeks, the access to the official exchange rate has improved for clients in the non-essential categories, in premium categories. They previously have to wait around 120 days to access the full amount of foreign currencies. Now they only have to wait 60 days. The automotive industry, for example, they previously have to wait 120 days, now only 90. And this will definitely benefit companies operating in Argentina. The outlook for the winners, companies in the extractive sectors, oil, mining, and gas that have immediate payments will remain. So no further restrictions for these sectors, as well as healthcare clients or essential fast-moving consumer goods that have to wait 30 days. The outlook here is also stable. And this improvement, as I mentioned, will likely reduce this gap between the volume of imports and the transfers of dollars to pay of these imports, that the transfer that the central bank has to make. And this will improve the operational environment because brings advantages, like, for example, dealing with distributors, communications with the headquarters to secure the dollars will be much simpler. You won't have to rely on intraday or intercompany debt to get the dollars to pay for these inputs. And this is especially important in 2025 because as we expect a slight recovery of the economy, there will be more demand for imports. In the first semester of the year, because of the economic recession, you see like huge declines of imports of consumer goods, of machinery and equipment. This trend will be definitely different in 2025. And I think like first, all these changes, all these policies were much easier to implement because they didn't require the congressional support. So the central bank and the Minister of Economy can and should continue to implement these reforms without the need of legislative backing. But some parts of the fiscal consolidation program, which is one of the government's main pillar of credibility, it requires like a good relationship with governors and legislators to secure the approval of these reforms. So this relationship got off to a rocky start. Early in this year, there were cuts to provinces, confrontation with both legislative chambers, but the government presented a more moderate ley bases. They make certain concessions, and this consensus-based strategy improve the relationship and secure the approval of the ley bases. And another important key stakeholder is the IMF. There were certain debts with certain doubts about the initial program of the government, but the relationship with the IMF have been improving, and probably they will keep supporting the government and providing the necessary liquidity for 2025.